Welcome to Christian Education Today. I am Pastor Calvin Lindstrom. Our subject today is Phonics Works. Who knew? There's an interesting history to this story. Teachers were not always trained in phonics in our nation's history. When my mother attended the University of Illinois back in the 1960s, she was not instructed in teaching reading using phonics. She had to learn that later. And by the time our Christian school was started, Christian Liberty Academy back in 1968, of course, we were fully using the principles of reading that work. I came across a fascinating story in Time magazine. Let me share that story. The Great Reading Rethink, it is called. This is Time magazine. Proficiency rates in the U.S. are abysmal inside the effort to change the way kids are taught. This is an incredible indictment. No other nation in the world spends as much money on education as the United States. Even in urban areas where they complain, oh, we don't have enough money, if you look at how much is spent per student in whole, it's way more than what most private schools, or certainly more than what Christian schools or what homeschooling families have. And the story talks about Oakland, California. As a teacher, Weaver helped struggling 4th and 5th grade kids learn to read by using a very structured, phonics-based reading curriculum called Open Court. It worked for the students, but not so much for the teachers. For 7 years in a row, Oakland was the fastest gaining urban district in California for reading, recalls Weaver, and we hated it. The teachers felt like curriculum robots and pushed back. This seems dehumanizing. This is colonizing. This is the man telling us what to do. Notice that language of, I would call it, CRT. Teaching phonics was colonizing. So we fought tooth and nail as a teacher group to throw that out. It was replaced in 2015 by a curriculum that emphasized rich literary experiences. Those who wanted to fight for social justice, they figured that this new progressive way of teaching reading was the way, he says. Now Weaver is heading up a campaign to get his old school district to reinstate many of the methods that teachers resisted so strongly, specifically systematic and consistent instruction in phonemic awareness and phonics. In Oakland, when you have 19% of black kids reading, that can't be maintained in the society, says Weaver. That is a very eye-opening statistic. 19%. This is one of the greatest injustices. Talk about social justice. The horror of humanistic methods for teaching children. Notice here, there have been choices made where our children were not in the center. That sadly is the long story of progressive humanistic education for the most part, as it has been applied in mass now in the United States. I'm glad there is awareness that this has failed, and we have to be careful not to be filled with pride as we think of our own children, what we are able to teach them. You see why the average is so low today, when in many cities probably half the children or more cannot even read. So we need to continue to teach our children, to share the blessings that God has given to us, praying that there will be greater openness, a greater spread. These children ideally need to be in Christian schools or trained by their parents. If somehow that could be accomplished, we need to pray that there will be a great expansion of Christian homeschooling, Christian day schools of all sorts to reach these children, and praying even for those who are trapped in the current system, that there will be awareness that the choices that have been made children were not placed at the center. I'm Pastor Calvin Lindstrom, happy to share some of these thoughts with you. Check out the Time magazine story, The Great Reading Rethink. Lord willing, we'll see you next Thursday at about this time. May God bless.